All right, today we're going to talk about how to kill your giant. So hopefully none of you have a big giant in your house lurking around, but we all have giants of different kinds, right? Like debt or sickness or fear or some kind of an addiction, and those things can be a giant. So I know we're all very familiar with the story of David and Goliath, but let's imagine today that our Goliath is whatever our giant is that we're facing. You've got two options. Either you're going to be its master or you're going to be its slave. But finally, you get to decide. So as we look at that giant, I want us to just think about what is the characteristics of a giant? Well, it's big, it's strong, it's not easy for us to defeat it. I mean, if a giant were like an ant, we could just smash it, but it's not. It's a big giant. Imagine it's like Goliath. He was like 9 foot plus. So it's something that can control you, oppress you, push you down, feel like you don't have any options. All right, so when we think about the story of David and Goliath, there's lots of people in that story. So we have the Philistines, and we have Goliath, and we have the Israelites, and we have David, and we have David's brothers, and we have Saul. So let's look at all the options of how each of these people responded to the giant. So you have the Philistines first. They see the giant, and they decide, we want to be on your side. Okay, you represent us, you're going to be our champion, and when you win, we all win. That's great, but when the giant loses, guess what? They all became slaves. So that was not a great option for them. Of course, it looked like a no-fail option, and they joined sides with the giant, and sometimes I think we accidentally do that just because we think the only way out is to join sides with the giant. You know, there's a saying, if you can't beat them, join them. Doesn't end well. Okay, second option is what David's brothers did. They all hid. The giant came and they all hid. So hiding also didn't make the giant go away. The giant was still there, and the giant didn't stop threatening them. The giant didn't cease to control their lives. Third option, let's look at what Saul did. Saul, he was a mighty warrior. He'd been in so many battles. He had killed thousands and thousands. And yet here comes this giant, and Saul, instead of taking his rightful place and him fighting it, he's looking for someone else to fight that battle for him. So sometimes I think that also happens. We have a weapon ourselves. We've been in a battle ourselves. We know how to fight the enemy ourselves, but we look for someone else to fight that battle for us. All right. What happened when Saul did that? He passed off his opportunity for the blessing to come on him. Saul had the same covenant as David. He was a child of the living God, and the same promise of protection applied to him. So Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, very known, well-known verse. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not into your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. So David chose that route. David chose, no matter how it looks, I'm going to trust in the Lord. But not everybody does. Not everyone will. And some people are going to hide. Some people are going to join sides with the giant. And some people are going to try to pass it off on others. But if they choose not to trust in the Lord, that doesn't mean we have to choose that. So we should not pass off that opportunity to receive the blessing of God's favor. Because remember David, he said, what will be done for the man who kills the giant? From the first eyesight of the giant, he was already saying, what do I get after I kill him? And I just want to encourage us as we're going that second mile, as we see that giant today, don't just think, how can I survive the giant? What will I do? But think like David and say, I am in covenant with the Lord, the God of Abraham. I'm in covenant with him. Well, what will be done for me after I kill this giant? Because you know what? God promises us everything we need for every battle we face.